What is up, fellow sickos? I am Dan Valley coming at you once more with my certified fantabulous, one and only legendary co-host, Mr. Grant Hughes. The playoffs from the NBA are 1 week old. And so we're going to talk about our biggest takeaways and observations from every single first round series, none of which will be over by the time you listen to this, but a few of them may be tracking towards that direction. Before we get started, Grant, how are you overall, and how are you feeling about these playoffs so far?
How am I? I'm doing very well overall. Thanks for asking. I probably am just gonna repeat myself if you go back and listen to the 1 year ago version of this podcast. But like, aren't the playoffs great? Like, is it just? It's just like it's night and day. It's so much better. Just like we're coming off as we're recording this, that Game 3 of Knicks Pistons, which was just like, God, I feel like Reggie Miller. It's like, this is what playoff basketball is supposed to be, where there's like a scrum, 3 times a quarter. It's not just that. Like but that's a symptom of like what makes it so. Everybody's trying their best, and like that's just not always the case over an 82 game season. So this is great. Like the first round is a lot. It's overwhelming. I know we've talked about this. It's just a lot to like really have dialed in focus on, just the volume of the games and just the minutia and the tactical stuff. But like, I'd do this all year as opposed to like some of the lulls and dead periods we get,
And there's just been, there's always a lot of unpredictability, but just like, and then some of the stuff that sucks, like the Ja Morant hip injury, we'll get into it. The Jason Tatum wrist injury, we'll get into it. Joe Mazzulla, they're like saying it was fun to see him bleed when looking at Porzingis. And then Tyler Parker,
I think Mazzulla thing, anyone's like, that's on
Tyler Parker I think he's from The Ringer, like had an image of Joe Mazzulla's press conference and then captioned it like blood is a top 3 liquid in my opinion. Like it was ridiculous enough you knew it was a joke, but it was like Joe Mazzulla might say something.
He's at least thought that. I'm pretty sure.
And even the Knicks Pistons ending in Game 3, where people were accusing like the Pistons score timekeeper, clock keeper, whatever, of just like, oh, they gave them like a free out of bounds play. And it's, well, no, like it's an impartial person, like from a different, I think, arena or team, like whatever organization that runs it. And then so that game was just weird. Like Karl Anthony Towns, I was like, yo, shout out to them giving the Pistons another possession. That was fire for your team. And then even, did you see people complaining that was my first reaction too, that Clippers Nuggets was the NBA TV game and then Grizz Thunder was the national TV game?
Yeah.
Turns out the NBA knew what it was talking about in that scenario, because the Thunder have the greatest playoff comeback in history. Yeah, I think it's been great. It's been overwhelming and a lot of fun so far. Are we ready to just dive in here?
Yeah, let's get to it.
We begin with the series neither of us has any emotional attachment to its outcome. The Houston Rockets versus the Golden State Warriors. We are recording this as they are knotted up at 1 game apiece. I have not seen, other than he has a glute, like bruised butt, basically, Jimmy Butler, and that's a good thing for Jeff Stotts. But after he had to leave Game 2, I know Brandon Podziemski was dealing with the stomach issue in Game 2 as well. Have you seen anything new on that? Like, do you expect, before just getting into your biggest observations here, would you be surprised if Butler's playing in Game 3?
I'd be surprised if he wasn't. But I then would not be surprised if it's pretty clear early on that he's not moving well, and might be something where he's just not that effective. Because I mean, that was a rough fall. Like, it really very similar to the injury Steph had, towards the end of the regular season. Just a rough fall, like right smack on the tailbone. I think maybe Butler looked like he kind of got it on one side versus the other, but that's just going to hurt like that. That's just, you're not going to get away from that one for quite a while. I don't think so. I bet he'll play though. Don't you think?
I would be shocked. Didn't he? I think Jeff Stott said he suffered a similar injury while with the Heat, and then he played. He missed 0 games because of it. And the Warriors aren't really in a position where like, you could take it.
Right. What are you saving them for?
But they have Pat Spencer, so maybe they'll be all right. I did like though that I think Kerr or Draymond or someone might have called what happened reckless, but like everyone, even Draymond Green and Kerr, both made it clear. It's like, no, this like wasn't Amen Thompson's fault. This wasn't done on purpose. So I respected that. Whereas like the reaction to the Ja Morant, Lou Dort stuff, where it's like, well, like Ja Morant gets injured all the time on dunks, maybe stop dunking, but neither here nor there. Yeah. What are you think, like this series? What have you made of it? What are your biggest takeaways right now?
I mean, wouldn't you say? I would say that it's aligned pretty closely with. Like a lot, that's the other thing generally, and this will apply to this series, so I'll just say it, I guess, speaking more specifically. I don't think there's been a whole lot that has strayed very far from like what we sort of laid out before the series in terms of like strengths and weaknesses and like pressure points and who's going to have to matter and things like that. Like it's been just a physical defensive series. The Rockets are huge and athletic. The Warriors beat them mostly with experience and guile, you know, in the first game. The Rockets half court offense is as like can be as clunky as we thought it would be.
You were right, by the way. I have to say, I asked if you thought they could get away with playing the two bigs plus Amen Thompson, and the answer offensively is no.
Yeah, here's a stat. This is just because one of the things I found myself thinking really in game two, like as the Rockets were winning, was, you know, can the Rockets ever play good enough offense? Like by good enough, I mean, and I'll get to a question I have for you in a minute, to like they might win this series with this offense. Like that's possible. Like especially if Butler is limited or Pajemski doesn't play well or is limited. It doesn't seem that's likely. But like bigger picture, with Şengün and Amen Thompson on the floor together, 97.1 points per 100 in the half court. That's 48th percentile. They're 19th percentile with those two plus Van Fleet, Brooks, and Green. So like, you know, that's during the regular season. And so I think that's borne out during this series so far. The Warriors have defended like pretty well. I think tactically they're doing most of the right stuff, which is not a surprise. They've been through a lot of these series, but the Rockets offense is just, it's just not really capable of being good enough consistently to, you know, to offset if there's any defensive slippage. Like, you know, they may just win because this defense is so physically overwhelming and they get enough transition shots that it's like, okay, that's fine. But the question I wanted to ask you, like, this may jump us ahead, it may not. If you assume the Warriors are healthy-ish, who do you think has the best chance of winning another series out of these two teams? Because going in, like Houston, number 2 seed, looked really good in game 2. The Warriors have all the cliche stuff experience, maybe definitely the best player and stuff. But like, do you think the Rockets have enough offense to win another series? Or are they more likely to than the Warriors?
I guess especially when we're going to have to look at it through the lens of this team plays the winner of Nuggets Clippers, right?
Sure.
The 4-5. My answer would be
no. This team will play the winner of
they'll
Wolves,
play
Lakers.
Lakers Timberwolves, excuse me. You know, the Timberwolves offense gets pretty gummy. I could feel like that would be a better matchup for them. No, I just don't. I think the Warriors have a better chance of winning another series because they're not as small. They're not, I mean, they're smaller, they're less athletic than Houston, but they have more buttons to press on the offensive end. And it's sort of just the Rockets they did have an above average half court rating in game 2, but you needed Jalen Green to go nuclear. And just like Fred VanVleet is in hell right now with a shooting percentage. He's not like on his drives, he's just not even shooting right now. So yeah, I think I don't feel great about it, but if they're relatively healthy, I think I have to go with Golden State has the better chance of beating the Timberwolves or the Lakers.
So, which is, I agree, which is weird because I don't know what the odds are now for the series, but you know, being tied 1-1 and with the Butler uncertainty and the way the Rockets can just physically dominate, like I kind of think I picked the Warriors in this series, and I guess I got to stick with that, but like, it's at best a coin flip now, right? Like, don't you? I mean, I think maybe the Rockets should be favored just because of the Butler stuff. And then we're sitting here saying like, actually, I don't think they can win another series, but they're probably going to win this one.
I would normally disagree with you actually, because I think that reliable half court offense is so important. And if you don't have that top tier outside in shot creator, which for as good as Jalen Green can be, he has never once been, it's out of, you know, certain Februaries, like his extended stretches, and this is his first time in the playoffs. I don't think he's going to have game 2 is not close to his normal is what I'm getting at.
Right.
So I would normally say, no, like I'm still pretty comfortable. I picked the Warriors in 7 with you. I'm still pretty comfortable with that. Even with the Butler injury, I think I would typically stand by that. I just think the thing that gives me pause is I said this to you before we started, and you mentioned that they are big, they're physical. They're also like super fast and athletic when they want to. I don't know. Like, is there another team you remember watching that had that combination? And then when you kind of contrast that against what they're doing to the Warriors, let me use Steph as an example. Statistically, he's had a pretty good series. You look at the work he has to go through to get his points, who is blanketing him. And then it's look at just what he's defending at the other end, where it's like, oh, there's time on Dylan Brooks or Amen Thompson. It's, yeah, those guys aren't like difficult offensive, but they're just so like strong and physical. And this guy's now being put through the ringer on both ends of the floor, essentially. And so because Steph is still the guy that powers everything, and because we now know that Jonathan Kuminga is just not it, assuming that he even sticks inside the rotation now,
Yeah.
I get where you're coming from. So there's that unease for me, but I think, I guess I'm defaulting towards experience, or I still just think that the Warriors have more offensive versatility, even if Butler's banged up.
Yeah, I wanted to get back to something you said, because if we're looking for, it's so early in the first round still, but one of the, I think, and this will become clear as we talk about other series, one of the things I'm really fixating on, and I think is defining a lot of the early like back and forth, is like and the half court. Can you score in the half court? Like that, it's not new. It's like we always talk the cliches of, well, the game slows down, and that's why we have concerns about teams like the Grizzlies in years past and this year's Rockets. It's like, if your offensive rating is good because you get offensive rebounds and you run a lot, that tends to not matter in the playoffs. And just, it really does boil down to like, just take the Knicks series. Like, well, if Jalen Brunson can get stuff going in the half court, the Knicks can win. And if Cat does stuff too, and it's like, well, if the Rockets can figure out how to score in the half court, they can win. And when Memphis is looking good, it's like, sometimes it's just because they can score in the half. You know what I mean? Like that feels like such a through line so far, that it is like, zoomed out, one of the things you can look at every series and just ask the question of like, well, who's going to score best in the half court? And like, well, there's your favorite, like that feels like a pretty steady thing so far. And maybe that's always been the case, but it stands out pretty starkly so far. I mean, so as you're watching this series, when you think of I'm trying to phrase this the right way, because I don't want to draw like a perfect parallel, and I also don't want to get too far ahead to what we're going to talk about with another series. But this version of the Rockets, do you think, as currently constructed, they will, ever is a long time, but can you see a future where like this core group is good enough offensively to be a contender? And what's that look like? What has to happen?
Oh, I feel like I have a more definitive answer to that. And I would say the answer is no, if you're looking at this exact core, but there's what it looks like is Reed Shepherd pops. And I'm not saying
I should have known that's where you were going.
Well, but isn't it true? I'm not saying, I mean, I would imagine if Udoka just like dusts off Reed Shepherd.
Oh boy.
It's like,
well, hey, look, if the Warriors are going to play Pat Spencer, the Rockets should have to play Reed Shepherd. It should be a rule.
Fair. That's fair. I feel, that should be a rule. But isn't that, it looks like that, or you decided to make people call it a consolidation trade, but it doesn't necessarily need to be that. It's you decided to go out and get the next sort of star who wants out, who fits, don't even say, it doesn't even need to be the timeline, but fits what your biggest hole is. And it's sort of what's good about the Rockets is they have assets, they have talent. And I feel like knowing your weaknesses is important. And the problem is the Magic have just never acted on it properly to address it. The Rockets just, you want this information. We were both advocates of, no, they don't need to do anything at the trade deadline. Let's see what they do in the playoffs. And if you told me that they don't want to do anything, the offseason isn't conducive to them doing anything seismic, they want to see what Reed Shepherd has next year, and they're going to give him a real shot before the trade deadline, I'd be okay with that too. But I think, isn't that what it would look, because who is the player then, if we're not talking about Reed Shepherd or talking about a trade, is it still feels like Alperen Şengün would be the closest they come to like, well, this guy's our half court everything. Like, it's not Van Fleet. I mean, even just looking at his age, and I don't think I'm ever going to trust Jalen Green enough, especially as a passer. And then the final thing here would be, I don't know if Amen Thompson has that like slowed down gear, and maybe he does, but like it's going to require him to have more of a perimeter oriented offensive armory, which he just doesn't right now.
Yeah, I asked the question because it's the easy answer is like, well, they've got the assets, make the Booker trade or whatever your stand-in is for that type of trade. But then I can also imagine myself if I'm Rafael Stone and I'm running the Rockets, I'm thinking like, well, Jalen Green just scored 38 in a playoff game and he's 23. Like, we all agree he's imperfect, but that's interesting. Jabari Smith Jr. continues, like, he just validates every time I've ever called him an X factor, which is like 1,000 times by now, because like he offers just dimensions that you don't get from their other big guys. And I really do think, 10 more pounds and he can just be a center like a lot of the time. He already is sort of. Şengün is so fascinating because I view him and that player type as like kind of definitionally like limiting in
Mhm.
a lot of ways to your offense. Like he can be really good, but also he feels like he caps it. And like Thompson might, there's no scenario where you keep Thompson off the floor. Like he just needs to be a starter forever. But he could grow too. You could anyway. The point is, you could talk yourself into several Rockets just organically improving enough to where the answer to the is their offense ever going to be good enough to contend is just yes. If one or two guys get better and Shepard pops or whatever. But like I don't know, we're probably getting way too far ahead for a
Well,
series that's
no,
tied 1-1.
I don't think we are because I actually think a question that's not asked enough is I think Devin Booker or Kevin Durant are just the name everyone zeroes in on. But if you're even looking at the players they already have in place, or just like the level of play, like how much better or how big do they need either Reed Shepard or maybe Cam
Yeah.
Whitmore or not? Like, what is the level of player they need for that element of the offense? Because Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, they fall. If you need Reed Shepard to become as good or better than Devin Booker, as an example, it's, oh, we've decided the Rockets need a megastar.
Right.
But
Yeah,
is it,
that's true.
could they do something like go get Kobe White or sign Ty Jerome, and that makes you feel a lot better about their playoff or ceiling within the championship discussion? That's something I'm still trying to figure out. And I honestly think Jalen Green and Reed Shepard are the easy answers. Well, those two might determine it. You mentioned Şengün, and I think it's fair to call him limiting in certain instances because a lot of it is just like, well, how much work can he, like, yes, he can work from the outside in, but what Jokic can do and what Domas Sabonis has done a better job of doing over the past year or two is like, well, they're going to make defenses pay from the
Mhm.
perimeter too. And does Alperen Şengün have that? It's not even the, like, he has the ball control and can put the ball on the deck to attack defenses, but can he like get jumpers up and hit them enough to make defenses respect him? And even now with Sabonis, the answer might be no, because Sabonis has upped his volume and his efficiency, and like defenses still kind of just don't care.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting. So to get back to the series before we move on, like, is there anything that I kind of went into this saying like, well, our priors have mostly been confirmed. Is there anything on either side of Rockets Warriors that has been surprising to you? Like any player performance or any of the like dynamics between the two teams? Because to me, it's just like, this is roughly what I thought we were going to get.
I don't think I've been shocked. I mean, I've been probably pleasantly surprised for the most part by Moses Moody's play. And were you? We've talked about this a little bit, and I'm not saying he deserved it, but Jonathan Kuminga just not being in the rotation to open up the series before the injuries kind of hit. Is that? And did you see anything from him in game two that made you think that was the wrong decision?
I think he had to play in game two.
Well,
Like
for
that
sure.
was the time to try it because just if your argument, which the Warriors and Kerr have made, is that he doesn't fit well with Butler, it's like, well, Butler's out. So if that was the reason, then you sort of have to play him. And they needed bodies. And in theory, he's someone that could create offense. But then he just goes out and like, I don't know, it's everybody's really kind of piled on, but he really did just show you why he hasn't been relied on, just making mistakes, holding the ball, missing easy passes, like just defensively, like not being able to stay in front of guys, which is kind of unfathomable just given his physical tools. So I was not surprised I was hopeful that maybe he would be motivated and give you good Kuminga in game two, but he just really gave you the opposite. So yeah, I don't know. It's not that interesting to say, but this series has gone pretty much as expected, except for the Warriors losing like two of the three primary shot creators that they had in the same game. And like they did fight, they stuck in it like as well as could have been expected, but that was just if it's just Steph, man, they're easy to guard. Like it's just there's as great as Steph is, like with Kevon Looney and Gary Payton II and Moody, like who refuses to take tough shots. It's just they don't have nearly enough.
They
This
do
is
have Quentin Post though.
well, Quentin Post did get some threes up, Dan. I mean, he's got a long way to go, defensively and stuff. I still think he's going to be a player, but it's just if Butler has to be like pretty close to himself, I think, for the Warriors to not just probably lose both of these next couple games. I mean, it's just this is the story of the team all year. If it's just Steph, they're easy to beat.
I think this is the series, not that I feel like I have the least feel for, because I actually feel like I have a really good hold of it, except for the fact that a lot of the other series, I feel like my priors have changed, right? I feel they've been illuminating in some
No,
way. And this series for me is not one of them. And I think the other one is that the next one up as we move on. I think it might be. No, it's not. Lakers Timberwolves is going to be my pick, where it's like, all right, like I kind of under like the first two games, you kind of understand what happens. You have a good hold on it, but it hasn't illuminated anything. The Clippers and Nuggets, Grant, I would argue, is illuminated just a whole bunch about these two teams. You picked What didn't you pick the Nuggets in 6,
I
right?
think I picked no, I think I picked Nuggets in 7 because
Okay.
I think I picked Nuggets. I know that.
How is that prediction feeling at the moment?
Well, it always rested on Jokic is so good I can't pick against him like more than any other factor. And Jokic is still there. And then he triple doubles and goes 9 of 14 from the field, and the Nuggets are not in that game. Talking about game, what was that? Game 3. So that may not be enough. Just him being as great as he is. Yeah, we we knew the Clippers. I mean, they did it at the end of the regular season. They looked this good, and they had a stretch earlier in the year where they looked this good. And this shouldn't be surprising. The defense is totally legit. If Kawhi Leonard is this Kawhi Leonard, especially game 2, I mean, nobody is game 2 Kawhi Leonard, but if he's close to that, they're just like, I don't know what you pick at. Like the Nuggets haven't been able to play Chris Dunn off the floor, so he gets to run around and cause trouble. And
Watching him play defense counts as a form of cardio. Like just
he's
watching it.
so yeah. I think I wouldn't say like I underrated the Clippers because I was very scared of them. I just maybe overrated like Jokic could win series like as an argument. But yeah, they look so good. The Clippers do. And if the Nuggets now with MPJ's shoulder thing and Russ, well, I don't know. We need to talk about Russ probably at some point, but like the Nuggets just don't have enough other guys. Like they just, the Clippers are deeper. They're better both ways. Like, I don't know what you do if Jokic isn't great and he doesn't get help.
Yeah, so I wanted to the two things that I think I actually this series is I guess not boggled my mind, but I thought more about it than I thought I was going to. But the two things that I think have really stood out here is one on the Clipper side, like Kawhi has just been he had like a pedestrian game 3, I guess you could say.
Right.
And that's because they just like blew the doors off the Nuggets. But he is shooting 16 of 18 in the paint and restricted area for the series. That's 88.9%. And he's at 9 of 10 on in the paint twos that are outside of the restricted area. They've been able to insulate him a little bit defensively, but like he can still be that. This is just
Yeah.
it's he can't do this for when you combine playoffs and regular season. No, he's never going to be able to do this for 70 games a year. But like this is just when Kawhi is Kawhi, like there are pockets of time. Maybe call him a 16-game player now that he can just be one of the 3 best players in the world.
And like we're in one of those pockets right now because it's not just like the shot making is insane. Like he's been that accurate, and it's like how many of those have been uncontested? Like guys are. I mean, he's barely getting these over guys' fingertips, which is like a shot he wants. So it's not like, oh, that's a bad shot. Like Kawhi just makes those heavily contested, tough pull up twos that he just creates out of nothing. Which is like, man, if you could pick a singular skill for an offensive player in the playoffs, that might just be it. He's moving great. Like he's I mean, we're never going to see like 10 years ago Kawhi defensively because that guy was maybe as good as a perimeter defender can be, but I can't remember when he's looked like this spry, this like mobile. And so unless like there's something acute that's going to happen with one of those knees or whatever, it doesn't feel like, to me, it doesn't feel like past playoff runs where it's like, man, he's still getting it done, but he's not moving great. And you're just waiting for the knee soreness thing to happen. He just looks better than he's looked in a really long time.
Do you think that's a potential, but you just made me think of this, that's a potential benefit of the direction they took this roster was just that his defensive workload is so much lighter
right
overall. Yeah. Like even if you're looking at throughout the regular season, that is it less likely for something to happen then because and even like his offensive role is not like, it can be cumbersome at points, but like they've just look at how they ran their offense for most of the regular season, which he did miss a good portion of it. So we've all talked about like, oh, maybe it's he needs to be load managed, but it's more about in-game load management than it is about actually giving him rest off the floor.
Well, and even in this series, there's long stretches where Kawhi's like not super involved because Harden's like 3rd, I think, in touch time behind Brunson and Cade in the playoffs. So Harden's still doing Harden stuff, and Harden looks pretty freaking good too. Kawhi can just like take 3 minutes off if the Clippers need him to and be on the floor and like have all the gravity impact and all this other stuff that he does just by being out there. But yeah, the Clippers this was a team like that just made no sense to me before the season. And now it all looks like pretty well thought out. Like the way they're constructed makes sense specifically for what you're talking about, which is like maximizing these little chunks of time where Kawhi might be able to just be the best player in the world or something close to it.
And the other thing with them, and I think Ivica Zubac has done a good job. I feel like making Jokic second guess about like going into the paint.
Yeah.
It feels like he's settling for more of like those in between jumpers than maybe he even normally would.
Mhm.
But the thing that I think Ty Lue did a great job of is you're pulling Zoo earlier so that he gets more minutes on the floor without Jokic.
Mhm.
And the Clippers have so far destroyed the Nuggets during that time. They're a plus 11 in 12 minutes when Zoo plays without Jokic,
Mhm.
and that's a 58.7 net rating. And so, like,
Yeah.
again, small pocket of time. They have a 20, like, Peyton Watson's been pretty damaging this series. They have a 29.5 net rating when Zoo plays with Watson on the floor, and a 23.5 net rating, specifically when if the Nuggets aren't going small, like DeAndre Jordan and Zoo have played 10 minutes without Joker on the court this series. And so I think that's a smart adjustment by Ty Lue, and it gives you just an advantage during these times when Jokic isn't on the court, where you're always going to theoretically have an advantage, but it feels like you're optimizing it. And it sort of leads me into my question, was like, what is the button that Denver pushes here? Because is there even in one? You can talk about the Russ stuff, the MPJ injury, which, all right, I get it from the shooting perspective when you're looking at a shoulder, but his defense has been dog shit.
Yeah.
And then Christian Brown has been bad.
Mhm.
Peyton Watson has been bad. I think Jamal Murray has been by and large fine. Jokic, I saw doesn't this feel cyclical? Everyone talks about, oh, Jokic needs to be more aggressive. And I'm in my head, I'm like, yeah, he could take like 40 shots a game if he wanted to, and he'd be hyper efficient. I just don't know if that's going to make. I'm at the point where I don't know what can the Nuggets do to make a difference in this series.
Yeah, well, there isn't like some guy deeper in the rotation that, oh, if we just play him more, or if he does that, like,
Jalen Pickett is on the roster, Grant. I would just like to point that
well,
out.
I maybe this is a good time to talk about. Well, my answer to your question is I don't see it. I think it's the play better button. It's like Murray has a good Murray game. The Nuggets kind of get loose in the 2-man Jokic Murray game, and the Clippers have guarded that like as well as you can, really. Like, Russ being on the floor makes that easy. But like, it needs to be the principles, because like I don't think Porter's got it, and he's hurt, so some excuse there. But he just, he just isn't someone I would count on. Like, he's not going to win him a game by going for 40. Like, I
Right.
don't see that happening. Watch him do it. But there's no trick. It's just that's why this was always like a scary series, because I was just relying on Jokic being great and figuring everything out. And the Clippers, I think, are maybe a little too good and balanced to be figured out like consistently. The Russ, we got to talk about Russ a little bit, because like, so it was game one. He hits the three to tie it. He knocks the ball out on the Clippers' last, chance. But prior to that, there were like six. We haven't talked about this. Everybody else has. There were like six different times where Russ like tried to lose the Nuggets the game, just like with insane drives
What
at the wrong time.
did you see? What Kofi on what he said on Blue Sky, where Russell Westbrook is a living embodiment of the question mark box in Mario Kart?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what's the worst thing you get? And you get at least something good usually. Like, the worst thing, the lamest thing is what, like the banana peel. I mean,
The
that's still
banana
like
peel, or like I always found the fake question mark boxes to
okay.
be maybe
Yeah.
see the fake question mark box, the upside down question mark, because it looks like something good, but then you crash into it and you explode.
Yeah. He's like the, we got to workshop this. There's something here, but just like he, he made impact plays, especially in game one. Game two, like it just, and then game three, he gets hurt, or he has the foot thing and doesn't play the second half. But there's so many possessions where he's the guy in the corner that Jokic, because he's Jokic, has to pass to, because he's wide open and he just like can't not make that pass. You have to. And the Clippers have to just be, every time Russ takes a wide open three, they're like, fantastic. Great possession, fellas. Like, we did it. Like, because even if he shoots 40% on wide open threes, which you just couldn't get that stat, you couldn't get away from that stat on all the broadcasts, like, that's still a win, because he's still going to do 10 ridiculous, like, over aggressive things. He's going to take bad shots. He's going to make defensive mistakes. Like, the bottom line of it for me is like, he's way, way too important to Denver. And that's kind of why Denver is in trouble. Like, he matters a lot, and he really could just lose you games, and
Right.
like, they don't have a great alternative,
I don't you said the play better button, and I think there's some evidence that's true, because Denver has a 51-8 effective field goal percentage on wide open jumpers in this series.
Mhm.
And you have to credit the Clippers just for like Chris Dunn. I said I wasn't kidding. Like, you watch him, he's so frenetic on that
Yeah.
end. but they shot 56.6. They had an effective field goal rate of 56.6 on wide open jumpers during the regular season. Jokic's shot quality has dropped precipitously when you look at the numbers too. Again, I mentioned I think Zoo has actually been a part of that. So there is a little bit of the play better button. And I don't want to overreact too much to game 3 because this happened with Minnesota a little bit last year where it looked like, oh, Denver's totally fucked. And that series goes, not only does it go to 7, but it looked like they were going to win game 7 pretty handedly at one point. I haven't seen a lot of evidence. I guess if you just point back to the 2 games, like Kawhi has this nuclear game in game 2 and like the Nuggets were still in a position to win it. So there is like still that in the back of my head, but this team just looks, is it a stretch? They just look defeated. And maybe they're banged up to the point of defeated, but I don't think I've ever seen. And part of this is, there was like a slower bleed of talent and optionality here. But like some of the younger guys were supposed to be able to pick up the slack. And Christian Brown did it a lot during the regular season, not doing it right now. Russell Westbrook can help you in these moments, but the other Mario Kart analog would be, when you get the banana peels, it's like, oh, you got something good, but you throw it forward and then you hit the banana peel and skid out anyway.
There you go. That's Russ.
That's Russ. So I don't feel great about them in this series. Did I pick the Clippers in 5? Or did I pick the Clippers in 6? I might've picked them in 5. I didn't feel great about that after game 1, actually, even though the way that it went, but this series is tough. It just feels like this is sort of a pivot point, like an inflection point for the Nuggets. And it's not good.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have a lot to add to that. I think this is still, well, there's a couple other ones. This is up there for the most interesting series so far. Just if only because of the Kawhi emergence, I think.
Yeah, that's just terrifying. And then like James Harden, we're not talking about James Harden not doing enough in the playoffs. What's that
right?
About?
Where are we?
Oh boy, our next series. This has been, for anyone who's been paying attention to Knicks Pistons, has been quite the journey. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, they changed quite a bit based on game 3. What I was going to ask you, well, I have 2 questions actually, but my main thought, and I guess I can form it into a question. At the end of game 2, did you find yourself thinking like, and maybe you think this all the time, but I found myself, and I wondered if you did, thinking like, do the Knicks just not have enough offensive creativity?
Yes.
Like tactically
yes.
or like personnel wise.
Yes.
To really make a difference.
Yes.
Right. And then game 3, Cat gets involved. Like Brunson still pounds the ball a lot, but you get 20 plus from, I think, did OG and Bridges both have 20? Or they had like, oh, that was like fairly well rounded. I mean, like the look of it was similar because Brunson's just got the ball forever, but like there was enough supplementary scoring that I wanted to walk that back a little bit, but that was like my main takeaway through the first 2 games. And I don't know if it's wise to just dump it after game 3 because some of the symptoms were still there. But that's your take, is that like it can't just be Brunson and it can't just be this uninventive.
I think it's a take we shared coming out of the offseason when we still hadn't seen this, but you cannot surrender control of 7 first-round picks and then still not have a clear-cut second advantage creator.
I love that term. I love advantage creator as a term because that covers a lot of ground. And
however you want to branch it out, like it's not just being able to generate your own shot. It's just putting defenses in rotation, setting up plays for others. You've seen players like Mikal Bridges, even Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, Towns, Cameron Payne do it in small or even sometimes extended drips and drabs. They just don't have that guy. And so this is one of the things I probably would always defend Jalen Brunson. I saw a lot of, he's the hardest player to watch in the NBA. And that just feels like maybe my Knicks goggles are on there. I think there's Knicks fans who can't agree. Like the stuff he does is egregious, even off the ball sometimes, but like that's part of his value is being able to draw those calls. But I don't find him to be the most unwatchable player in the league. What I will push back against even more aggressively is, yes, he's been part of the problem. And I saw people clipping plays of like, well, he had Towns open here and didn't pass it. There's a reason that his crunch time workload was one of the highest over the last 3 decades this past season. And it's not because he can't play differently. We saw him play differently in Dallas. It's because the Knicks aren't built to play him differently. And I'm not going to sit here and defend Tom Thibodeau. Do I think he's the right coach for this team? No. Am I a Tom Thibodeau apologist? I don't think I've ever once really been a Tom Thibodeau apologist. But what else? There are adjustments that he could make. And if they lose this series, I think he will share a ton of blame. There is nothing that he can do to make them measure up to Boston or Cleveland or some of these, maybe these other teams in the West. And I think I've seen someone in Blue Sky was getting annoyed with me saying I was protecting Tom Thibodeau, whereas like if Kenny Atkinson was the coach of this team, here's 2 points on that. One, Kenny Atkinson is the coach of another team. So you don't get to say, what if we had a coach who's already coaching another team? Two, I would push back that you give Kenny Atkinson this, he's working with what? 2, 3 good above average advantage creators when you look at what Evan Mobley's done this year in Cleveland.
Yeah.
The Knicks don't have that. You don't get to say, yes, they got Karl Anthony Towns more involved. One of my quibbles would be because because the Knicks are married to Josh Hart, still not enough 1-5 pick and rolls. And even when you got Tobias Harris in foul trouble, you still didn't go to the 1-5 pick and roll when you moved Jalen Duren back to Towns. So there's adjustments that Tibbs can and should make. But this has been the Karl Anthony Towns motif throughout his entire career, is that yes, you can blame some of it on the coaching, some of it on the primary ball handler like Jalen Brunson. He fades, and that's fine. He's still a fantastic player, but he is not, even when you look at these gaudy offensive numbers, he's not someone that is going to drive advantage creation for you game in and game out over the course of never mind a regular season, an entire postseason campaign. That has never been Mikal Bridges' game on the ball, at least. He's always going to, like, he got some better, like, on-ball looks at the rim in game 3. Those things come and go. Like if he's on the ball, he's going to look to snake screens. He's going to pull up. Like that's what he looks to do. He can't do it at the level that Brunson can. And so I do get annoyed sometimes when it feels like Brunson is taking on too much or not moving the ball around enough. He is the only player on this. The Knicks, his teammates ranked in the 4th percentile of half court shot creation this year. That's like, that's shitty.
That says it right there. That's the situation, basically.
And it's not because Brunson can't play in an environment that where you have better half court creators. It's that the Knicks, they identified, they assigned, it's not even by the way, it's not even the Towns trade. And I'm not even laying this honestly, it's the fault of the front office because you assigned X amount of value to acquiring Mikal Bridges. You don't get to give up that much pick equity and then turn around and say, look, for all of Julius Randle's flaws, during the regular season, he's a facsimile of that advantage creator. We kind of even saw moments for the Timberwolves in game 2 where he was that. He wasn't the answer, so I don't want to get hung up on that, but you gave up all that pick equity plus your second offensive option in a separate trade without getting a clear-cut, above-average, reliable advantage creator in there. That is the cardinal sin of the front office, and that is the biggest flaw of this team. And until they fix it, this is all they're going to be. Like this is it. And I still think they could make no adjustments and they might still beat the Pistons, who we need to talk about a little bit. They've been they've been fun as hell to watch. Like that is the fatal flaw of this team. And until they fix it, and I don't know if they can when you look at their assets and their cap situation, like it's not just Tom Thibodeau might be a problem, and here's where I'll close it. He might be a problem. He is not the problem.
Two questions. One, and the second one will get us back to the Pistons a little bit. One, would you say it's fair though to argue that OG kind of emerging as a much more like high usage creator during Brunson's injury at least like hints at the possibility that like maybe the personnel is here to play differently and it is really just Tibbs or it is Brunson that wants to play a certain way now? Like that feels like a data point that runs against what you're saying. I think I generally agree with you because but it does feel to me like with this group, you should be able to have more off-ball movement, have a more dynamic, egalitarian approach. Like, because it's not like Brunson doesn't have off-ball value. You know, it's not like we have to put him on the ball because he just stands around or he can't shoot. Guys won't guard him. Like, it feels like, I think broadly you're right. I think there's like some toggling. You could move the sliders just a little bit to where like OG creates a little bit against certain matchups, or like there's just more dynamism. And again, we're like talking about a team that had a great offense during the regular season. Like the bottom line is the offense is good, but like I feel like there's some money left on the table, like tactically. I don't know, maybe. And OG being like, oh my God, look at all this, look at the scoring load he's shown. Like that feels like a sign.
Maybe. Yeah, I think you're right that there's definitely money left on the table if you were to change the coach. But what is like the ceiling of that? Because if like, you know, you're the game 3 stretch where Brunson and Cat both weren't on the floor and they couldn't even get the, he wasn't going to catch it even if they got it to him, but like they couldn't get the ball to a wide open. Like this team just, OG Anunoby might have increased his scoring, the depth of his scoring arsenal. He's not like a positive playmaker. And it's like Josh Hart, he has some live dribble playmaking to him, but defenses don't care what he's doing because like his range is
Yeah.
so limited. And with Mikal Bridges, it's like he does a little bit of everything and like enough of basically not enough of basically nothing, but you see what I'm getting at there. And
Yeah.
so I
Well,
think the fact that they needed campaign to win game one
boy.
is kind of just like a microcosm of just, is that really your second? And it's on any given night, it could be someone else, but that's not a role in the playoffs that it's, oh, it could be someone else. As
Yeah.
maybe your number two scoring option, that's cool. But in terms of creating advantages for others, there's nobody else on this team that consistently does that. Like even like the live dribble stuff with Towns, like it's cool to see him be aggressive, and even with OG Anunoby. But like you look at OG Anunoby's handle, and like that, like there's going to be a cap on what he could do as a playmaker, and even
Yeah.
maybe as a scorer. And then Towns is just, he's not like the best live dribble playmaker. He's going to do more of his damage like operating in standstills from there. So my point is to say that they're a bad team or that they couldn't be better with a different coach. What is the pathway aside from making a major change to the personnel that they might not be able to do? Like, it's not even about Boston or Cleveland for me. You put them against the Pacers in a series, and I'm not going to pick them to win.
Okay, I want to come back to what you're to that point, but I want, and you could say this. So remind me, I have one question for you that we should probably close the discussion of this series with. You could do this with any series usually, but there's a pretty easy pathway to this being 3-0 Pistons right now. Like game one, like the Pistons fall apart, right? Give up what were they up? 21, give up a 21-0 run and just lose a quarter and lose the game after probably winning the first three. They do win game two. Game three, like I know Hardaway was like 7 of 12 from three. Like he probably, but you're going to get one of those from Hardaway in a series. Like,
by the way, it's not like Malik Beasley had an off game, man.
That's what I'm saying.
These guys are all going off at the same time.
Beasley was 2 for 10 from three. And like some of those were good looks. Like Beasley hits a couple of those. And the Pistons wheels don't fall off. It's 3-0. Like this, you know, sometimes that's like a fool's errand to look at a series that way, because like, you know, the Knicks have the experience and it's just much easier to imagine the Pistons, you know, looking a little green and falling apart, and the more experienced Knicks just winning that game one. And that's what happens. But like, and then Beasley, I don't know. If I'm going to count on someone to make open threes, the list is real short and Beasley's on it, and he didn't in game three. So I think that's all a roundabout way of saying like the Pistons are in this series, like from a like competitive standpoint, clearly from like a, we're here to be chippy standpoint. Like they're very much like they understand. I think the Pistons view this series as like, we should be winning it. And I think that's partly like just youth and whatever and their whole culture. But like, it's also because like Cade Cunningham is a real problem. Like it is hard to make things hard for him. The Knicks have done a pretty good job of it, but like, I'm coming away from this series, even though it's been uneven for him in some facets. Like, I think I'm ready to admit, like, I have underrated his ascent, because like he on both ends has had moments where it's like, he looks like the guy. And I know Pistons fans are like, yeah, where have you been? But I always withhold judgment until we see playoff stuff. And he's shown enough as like a creator against a defense designed to stop him, and as like a real defensive competitor against like physicality and tough matchups. Like and you just add to that, you add just a bunch of good wings that can defend. Like Ron Holland was friggin' here for it in game three. Like
you're going to give me a heart attack at some point in the playoffs.
He's a mess, but like, man, is he out there to fight. And Thompson, same thing. The Pistons are pretty real. Like, and this team, well, maybe I'll just, unless you have something to add to that, I want to ask you before we leave this series, you get to have, you can pick one, Detroit's current roster, contract statuses, finances, picks.
Don't do this.
Or the Knicks, same thing. And you're just trying to be the best team you can be next year and the year after. It's a 2-year window. So we're not going to be like, well, the Pistons rookies, you know, it's going to be a 5-year thing. It's just, you have their resources and talent. You're trying to win in 25, 26 and 26, 27, or the Knicks. Which are you taking?
I still lean Knicks, but it's closer than it should be, because it's not like Detroit has a bunch of extra first round picks aside from their own they could throw. And like if part of the appeals, if they're not going to get a major free agent. And so it's all right, well, what is the trade that, because we're still kind of waiting on Jaden Ivey. Ron Holland's not a finished product. Do you have to move Asar Thompson to get that next guy? But it's because of Cade, which to add, the only two things I would add to what you would, because I did have a question to ask you, but the thing about Cade too And I think this helped. Like the Dennis Schroeder trade is kind of proven to
Oh my
be like,
God, Dennis Schroeder has been so important to them. He's made
and
so many big shots.
his defense too, like just
Yeah.
like the way he gets his body low and like it's put like the Knicks, no team, like the Pistons are allowing the smallest share of jumpers to come wide open in this series as anyone in the playoffs. And the Knicks are not shooting well on those looks either. But like to allow only 14.2% of the Knicks jumpers to be wide open, big deal. Like they're just physical and they can make the closeouts. But with Schroeder, what they were also able to do, and I think this actually speaks to, yeah, Schroeder, but also Cade, is like towards the end of the game, or there were just stretches where it's like they're putting Cade away from the action because they don't want if it's OG on him. They don't really. Mikal Bridges did a better job on Cade.
Mhm.
I don't think the Pistons respect Mikal Bridges as a defender because I don't see this as much. But like when it's OG Anunoby, it's we would rather take OG Anunoby out of the play
Yeah.
and like leave Cade as sort of like a decoy or a spacer, and then we'll have Dennis Schroeder operate. It doesn't always end well, but I'm like, that's like really smart because you
Yeah.
look at the way that this Knicks defense could break down. But what I wanted to ask you about, I know they're dealing with the Isaiah Stewart injury, but would you have gone? They immediately pivoted back to Jalen Duren on Cat, and the Knicks didn't really make them pay for it a ton. But like, can they? I understand not wanting to risk getting Cade in foul trouble too. But like, if it comes to Asar Thompson or just again dusting off Simone Fontecchio or something, like why not continue to go when Josh Hart is going to play? Wouldn't you rather see them continue to put the small on Towns in that situation or no?
Yeah, I would because I forget who had it. I saw it on Blue Sky yesterday. I think maybe you've seen it. There's a stat that like when
Oh
Cat is
yeah, the Knicks are like Fred Katz at the Athletic had
there's
it. The Knicks have won like 30% of their games when Cat is primarily defended by a non-big.
right, and it's just like okay, so we just defend him with a guard or a wing, and like if he wants to post up, and that's how the Knicks structure their offense, great. Or if that just seems to work. So I think. And then and that's the thing. There's the interplay is so obvious. It's like, well, if the Knicks would just take Hart off the floor and not allow Duren to guard him,
More deuce minutes, and then you
yeah,
could run 1-5 pick and rolls. That doesn't seem like something Tom Thibodeau wants to
right,
do for some
right,
reason. And I swear to God, if he ever plays Mitchell Robinson and Josh Hart together again without Towns or
oh,
Brunson on the court,
yeah. I mean,
my God. By the way, if you're not, I swear this is the final thing. If you're not going to lean on the Towns, Jalen Brunson pick and roll, then give even more minutes to the dual big lineup to help your defense because then Mitchell
sure.
Robinson has to be like, I'd rather see Mitchell Robinson screening instead of Towns than Josh Hart screening instead of
Yeah.
Towns.
Last tidbit, you made me think of it. It's your fault. I really like Josh Hart, and I think there's a great chance that in this series he has a game where his hustle and offensive rebounding and like run outs, and maybe he'll make a couple threes, like contribute to a win that like maybe the Knicks don't get without him.
Mm-hmm.
But when you think this ties all the way back to the through line thing of like what matters in the playoffs, Josh Hart's two best things are offensive rebounding and transition scoring. And like, we just keep seeing over and over that stuff dries up in the playoffs. So like, if you're not going to get that from him and what you need is half court spacing and like secondary creation and like matchup proof guys, like he's not that like that. So I think more McBride minutes is like the obvious lever to pull because that would solve a lot of different things, I think. But now watch Josh Hart get like 14 transition points next game and whatever.
And the problem is, though, is that I think pretty clearly, if you had to argue wire to wire so far, I guess Towns has been the Knicks' best player. But like Josh Hart's very clearly been their second best playmaker.
Yeah, I just it's a weird thing. I don't know. This is a great series. I really hope it goes 7 just because
I think it might. I mean, by the way, I think this says a lot. We spent a lot of time on the Knicks' flaws, but like the Pistons are just they're finding the weak points and they're pressing on them, and that's a great job by JB Bickerstaff. It's a great job by the players. Like this is like B-ball Paul just coming in, just wreaking fucking havoc in Game 3. Hell yeah,
yeah.
Our next series is Lakers Wolves. Grant, make this series make sense for me.
Well, I mean, this is the one that I sort of have the least to say about, weirdly, because as we're recording it, we've only seen 2 games. And I would say among a few other things, like the difference has been the Wolves made threes in one and they didn't in the other.
I was thinking the exact same thing. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that, it's hard to really, we could certainly talk more about it and kind of do some macro stuff, but like, 15 to 26 in game 1. And I forget what they were in game 2, but there were a lot of stats going around about it was the biggest decline in made threes from game 1 to game 2 since some stupidly long ago thing. And the Wolves scored 85 points in that second game. Well, what's the more interesting angle than like make or miss league analysis? I mean,
Oh,
the small ball stuff and like the interplay between, big Wolves, small Lakers is interesting. Even though the Lakers aren't small, it's just they have one guy who's technically a center and he sucks, and so like they sort of are small or should be. Do you see? Jared Vanderbilt has now averaged more minutes per game than Jackson Hayes. So
that's
there
not
was there.
honestly. I think we both could have predicted that at the time.
Well, I don't know if I would have picked Vando. I would have thought, well, Finney Smith and Rui will both play 33 minutes a game or something. But yeah. So, and the offensive rating is just through the cellar with Jackson Hayes on the floor, even though it's only 2 games. That feels real to me.
I think if you're the Lakers, you probably feel pretty good that to this point, LeBron, Reeves, Rui, and DFS are shooting combined 10 of 39
Yeah.
from 3, 25.6%. And then Reeves and DFS specifically, they're 3 of 16 on wide open threes.
Yeah.
Combined.
Well, Luka's over 35%, and somebody else, maybe Vincent, is in the
I think
low
it's
40s.
like 42 or something. 3
Everybody else is just can't hit anything.
And so you have to, I almost feel like you feel pretty good about that, but I've seen a lot of, because the thing I wanted to focus on in the Wolves is not the thing that everyone else seems to be focusing on. It was like, look at what Luka did going after Rudy Gobert. And I'm like, are we going to do this again?
Because you have to.
The data, like the individual numbers against Luka are fine. Like he's 4 of 10 and 1 of 4 when going up against Gobert. But this would lend some credit to the concern. The Lakers are averaging 1.72 points per possession, Grant, when Gobert, like as a team, when Gobert is defending Luka Doncic. That's bad. But here's the thing.
That is bad.
Defense has not been Minnesota's problem.
Yeah.
Like it hasn't. And so I'm looking at it more from the offensive perspective of, can you make sure that Ant is going to be more consistent when he's facing like these aggressive Lakers like schemes or coverages? And then the other thing for them is they did a really good job of this in game 1 is after you grab a board, go out, get into your offense. 31.2% of their possessions after a Lakers miss were in transition. That dropped to 20% in game 2. And I think the variable in game 2, of course, is that Naz Reid and Dante DiVincenzo, both are guys who, one, maybe Naz Reid can help you in like the whole Luka versus Gobert thing. If you're the Wolves, do you want to concede switching as much? I think that's worth a discussion having, but isn't it more for you like, well, how do we get this all? Like Julius Randle has like been fine, has a good game in game 2, and like you still like you don't feel it. Isn't the problem the offense still doesn't feel dynamic enough? Or should we be focusing on, the Lakers, like, look at what they're doing when Gobert switches on to Luka?
So I'm going to read you a note because I built my doc here just from notes that I try to write like.
Hold on. You use, like, you're not going analog?
Like I didn't handwrite these. I typed them in my notes app and then I copy and pasted them into the Google Doc. This is after game 1, which the Wolves won and shot the shit out of the ball. Edwards is a very good player who has a long way to go on offense. Don't think he makes others better, and don't think defenses really have to scheme all that hard to stop him yet. And I kind of think we're saying the same thing, because if you're concerned about the Wolves offense and like how do we get this thing, like, how do we grease the skids a little bit? Like, how do we get it going? It has to start with Edwards, and this is like a common knock on him. You'll hear like, he doesn't. The reads he makes when doubled are slow, and he'll make the easy pass sometimes, like the obvious, like strong side corner out of the pick and roll, which most teams take away now anyway. But he's not doing the advanced reads. He's not manipulating the defense. It's like you just kind of load up against him, and maybe he's going to hit 6 threes over tough contests, and that's why you lose. But otherwise, he's going to crash in and try to score over guys because his finishing craft is like not great, despite like A+ athleticism. He can fix all that in like 2 or 3 more years, I'm sure. But for now, like, I think all the issues we talk about with Minnesota do kind of have to be traced back to him because he is in the primary scoring role. And like, yeah, Gobert being out there cramps the spacing. Well, get better at throwing lobs. And like, yeah, you're relying on Jaden McDaniels to hit a lot of threes. Like, all right, well, hit him in the pocket. Like I feel like it's fair to put a lot of it on Edwards, but we did. The counterpoint is we spent a lot of this series talking, pre-series talking about just like the guys around him. Like, well, how do you keep Conley on the floor, and like how do you maximize Randall's secondary creation? And that's all still real, but I think my takeaway so far has just kind of been Edwards' flaws even though they do seem like the types of things young players correct, or improve upon, are like pretty like tightly connected, closely linked to like why it is that Minnesota can look terrible on offense one night and great the next, and feel like they are just a make or miss team. You know what I mean? Like he's not. We talk about advantage creators. Like he doesn't consistently do that. Like for a guy as good as he is, I think that's an issue.
And if you're not going to have that, because I guess I don't know what to consider Julius Randle in all this, because he can be an advantage creator, but it's like, how it's coming every
Right.
single time. It's not
Right.
dynamic advantage
And
creativity.
that's not really in the spirit of what we're talking about with advantage creator. Like he doesn't compromise the defense consistently. You know what I mean?
And that's why sort of like how, and arguably Rob Dillingham is more important to Minnesota. Well, it's not arguably. Rob Dillingham is more important to Minnesota than Reed Shepherd is to Houston. But like that's the idea with Rob Dillingham.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not going to have that type of finished product player though on the roster, you need to surround it. And this is why I get what you're saying about Edwards, and I agree with everything. I guess I just don't know how much blame to assign to him when it's, that this is the problem and what you're waiting on him to develop. And what have you done? You've actively, I love DiVincenzo. So it's like, I don't know if you've made your spacing worse, but like when you look at his teammate, like in catch and shoot 3-point shooting, 26th percentile in catch and shoot 3-point shot making this year. And then 30th percentile overall in off-ball gravity. I don't know if an interesting challenge trade over the offseason might be Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo for Karl Anthony Towns. Like maybe that.
See what happens.
So, but no, so I agree with you, but I almost feel like this falls on the Wolves for, well, this isn't new. And that this, did you just bank on him getting better at this?
Yeah.
And so
I think so.
I just wonder if we would feel differently. Like if you could remove the early foul trouble from Naz Reid and Dante DiVincenzo in game 2, I honestly almost wonder if we're talking about like a different series at this point.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these are that way so early on. I know I'm being hard on Edwards, and
but no, that's fair. If you want him to be like, the Wolves view him and their fans as like a top 10 player in the league, like then you're going to pick nits or you're going to put the microscope over him.
Right. Like it's sort of his job to excel at being the offensive like catalyst, and he can do it. It just hasn't happened often enough. And I think that's part of the reason the Wolves have been like Jekyll and Hyde all season. There's other factors for sure, but I think it's worthwhile to fixate on him. So we came into this kind of wondering, or I think it was a talking point. Like the Lakers don't have big man depth. Is that going to become a problem? And you would have assumed this series, that's where it would show up, right? Because we spent time talking about Gobert, Naz Reid, like Julius Randle's like a physical load. Like
wasn't it hard to kind of craft the like what is there aside from the Thunder, which some people think the Lakers are a good match for the Thunder, maybe they are, but like, is there a worse matchup in theory than these Wolves for maybe Houston? But
exactly my point. Exactly my point. You would think that like this is okay. This will test it, right? We'll find out and it's like so far the answer is like the Lakers are they seem equipped to play smaller and make it work. And we need more games in this series, but like if it's not an issue in this series so far, like maybe that's overblown. Maybe they can just play. The thing is like the quote unquote small Lakers can put like 4 guys that are 6'8", 250 on the floor. They're, close to that. So it's like, how small are they really? But
yeah,
maybe that's what it is. Maybe like collective size offsets the lack of a like 7-footer that you can throw out there.
So this was one of the series we differed on, is I think I had Wolves in 6 or 7 and you had Lakers in 6 or 7, right?
Yeah, I had Lakers for sure.
Do you feel differently about this? Not that you need to, I don't like, neither of us are really in the business of changing predictions, but do you feel like this? I guess this series is maybe the way we've gotten here is not how I would have, where I think I feel a lot better about the Wolves than I should, is really what I'm getting at.
I think I guess I wouldn't, I would still pick the Lakers. And maybe that's partly because like they just haven't shot it well collectively, and I think there's room for a lot of improvement there. I don't know. This is another one that's like we said at the outset, I don't have a great like handle on it beyond the make or miss part for the Wolves. And I mean, I think I did pick Lakers in 7. So like that implies this thing could go either way. I'm just going to bet on Luka being better than Ant, probably.
I'm glad we're in agreement that, and I think if the Timberwolves lose, the focus is going to come back like, well, look at how often Rudy Gobert had to defend Luka Doncic. I just do not think that that's even close to their biggest issue.
I don't think so either.
Our next series, which this has been through 2 games, has been like one of my favorite ones to watch because maybe I like validation and I don't think that people fully understood how good the Pacers were,
Mhm.
and we did. Grant, how are you feeling? Like, this one's just been it's been frenetic.
It's been frenetic, and another one that so far has aligned like pretty closely with expectations because Giannis is getting all he can eat, 35 and 15 on 65% shooting, and it's not enough. And we had one game
It's
with
like
Dame and
Jokic in Denver, basically.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
And one game with, one game without. Also, I think I told you I made a bold prediction he'd average 15 free throw attempts per game, and I think in game one he shot exactly 15. It's like, yeah, I'm so smart. Because who couldn't see Giannis like running into everybody on Indiana
Did
coming?
you by the way, did you see we all like some crowds always still like clock Giannis when he's at the free line. Did you see the fan in Indy that had the clock hand that he's moving like down the second?
Love that guy. Is that the one with the sign that said Greek time on it? And it was like
Oh, is
in
that what
the
it said? I didn't see that
Greek
part, but I was
font.
like,
Yeah.
that's like the fun shit
You
about playoff basketball.
you can't tell me that wouldn't bother you. Like the counting, like, that how could that not just destroy? I was like, if that were me, I think I would try to time it so I shot on 10 every time. And it's like, oh wait, that means they're definitely in my head. If I do, like, I'm defeated mentally and I'm not even playing in the game. That's how weak I would be.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to handle it either, but that's why we yell
That's
about the game through microphones rather than play it.
that's the only reason
That's the
I don't
only
I
yeah,
don't play
it's only
power
has
forward
nothing
for
to do
the
with like
Bucks.
physical or
Yeah,
or
no.
intelligibility when it comes to basketball. It's
Mental
just
frailty is
yeah.
my real holdup. This is a macro question, and you can use it to springboard into whatever you want here, but it's kind of Bucks focused because we'll talk about the Pacers more. They deserve it. To me, it feels like there's a handful of first round teams so far that feel like they're like end of the road teams, and like we will jump ahead to Memphis, maybe like the Knicks in some ways are like, okay, this core is not good enough, it's topped out. To me, the Bucks are the most obvious. We're getting beat. We don't have a lot of answers. We don't have a lot of outs. This group is at the end of the road. Is agree or disagree? Is there another team you'd add to that? And are the Bucks showing us right now that like this group is pretty much done?
Yeah, I think the only team that, and we'll talk about that series in a little bit, Memphis might be in a similar boat. I
I have a
agree
hot
with
take
you
on Memphis, by the way, but when we get there.
I agree with you in the sense that when the notification came through about the John Horst extension, I was like, when I saw it, I was at the gym and I was like, oh, the Bucks just fired their executive in the middle of the playoff series. This is a disaster. And my mind was geared to that because look what happened with Memphis. And like,
wait, so after you got through that, did you think at all? What was your first thought as to the why they extended him?
well, I was just like, oh, this is just sort of, I assumed his contract was up. I didn't know his contract situation. And then my first reaction was, I really think that this bodes well for Giannis staying beyond this season.
Oh, interesting.
Because, oh, go ahead.
No, I'll give it back to you here. I thought, oh, they're giving him the security to tear this down and think on like a 5 to 6 year time horizon, which like, but then it's like, well, he's had a great relationship with Giannis and has gotten him to re-up several times. So maybe that's what it is.
That was like kind of my second thought. My first inclination was like, well, people are going to be really mad about this and this is going to be a joke. And surely it was. But in my head, I was just like, how are they really supposed, like, what has he done? Okay, the Adrian Griffin and then maybe the Doc Rivers, those are missteps. The Chris Middleton trade doesn't look great. Like, where has John Horst or this front office fundamentally failed this post-championship Giannis window? Is it they never should have gotten rid of Mike Budenholzer? Is that one of it? Is it they shouldn't have made the Damian Lillard trade, which I think most people kind of understood because they thought they were capped with Drew Holiday? And the other thing to remember is that, yeah, this Bucks team doesn't feel like it's it. Last year's Bucks team didn't feel like it's it. The year before, like the previous two playoff campaigns, and then maybe even this one, just because of how long it's going to take him to work back into true Dame, is just they've dealt with. There's been major pieces that are injured or just in Giannis's case missed like the entire playoffs. Yeah. So I don't have a problem with them doing it. I did not consider they're giving him the job security to tear this down. If that was the reason they did it, I don't think you announce it in the middle of a playoff series. Yeah. I think it's more so we're doing this to distract from us being down 2-0, and we're sending a signal that like, no, maybe they make moves. Maybe even Dame Lillard gets traded, but we're going to try and reorient around Giannis.
I was definitely I had like primed myself to think that because of the question I asked you before about like end of the road teams. It feels like this team's at the end of the road. So like, of course, the only reason you'd re-up with your top executive is because you want to let him know, hey, you don't have to think about tomorrow. You can think about like 10 tomorrows from now if
Yeah.
you want. So I kind of set myself up for that. But what
Well,
was I
no, I
gonna say?
think you could be right, but then wouldn't that make the timing of when you and they
Sure.
announcing that weird? Like, why not wait until you get bounced,
Yeah.
or like even do it before the series starts?
Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. Do you? Yes, I think you're right. Do you think that like I don't know, I'm gonna lose my thought again. Why can't I keep this thought in my head? Oh, do you think that Milwaukee fans? Yeah, I'm asking you to be a voice for the greater,
Noted
Milwaukee
Bucks fan
area.
Dan Favale here reporting
Yeah.
for duty.
Do you think they want like, hey, keep? Of course they want like keep Giannis. The whole Luca thing taught us that. Like, just keep our guy, please. Uh, and retool or like tinker or see what you can turn. I don't know, Dame into or whatever. Or do you think they look at this and say, we've just reached the logical endpoint of a team that went all in several times, won a championship, still has the superstar, but just can't build a good enough roster around him because that's hard to do over like a decade span. Like, do you think they just like want more of this, or are they
No,
like think, you know what I mean?
I think they if the sense that I would get is that they're not okay with this, but they are resigned to what you said, where this is sort of the natural destination of a team that went all in, won one, tried to win again for whatever reason, did not.
Hmm.
But they also look at it as so if you have to pick like one of the two extremes, I don't think Bucks fans want them to tear it down because they understand that like they're still not going to have control over most of their draft picks moving
Yeah.
forward.
Right.
So there is limited value in trading Giannis aside from if you can get an offer that's attractive enough. But I also think, and I think I would agree, and I don't know, maybe the Chris Middleton trade changes that a little bit. I do think there's more juice to squeeze out of this group. But like at the same time, I'm saying that and I'm like, they've actually done pretty well the past couple of seasons, hitting on like these minimum signings.
Right.
Well, first Malik Beasley, then it's Torian Prince, then it's Gary Trent Jr. I'm not saying that either one of them's had a terrific series, but I would think that I, I think if you polled Bucks fans, they don't want this to like if they had to pick an extreme, it would be let's figure out a way to double down on Giannis again, even if it's imperfect and risky, rather than let's tear it down and take what is probably the safer. Like if you're the Bucks and you trade Giannis now, there'll be the noise, oh, you failed. But like it's the safe path, right?
Yeah.
I think the harder decision would be, do we put more a future pick on the table? Do we look at it like just who is the best player we can get for if you send out Kuzma and Pat Connaughton, assuming he takes out his player, like you get a pretty expensive player for that.
Right. Right. I mean,
So I think that would be the riskier decision because you're giving up like what little is left of your future draft equity.
yeah, I think that's I think that's fair. We gotta like
Oh,
circle
here
back.
can we get to our ode of Pascal Siakam?
Well, I was just gonna say we got to circle back to this series, and we need to focus on the team that's been really good in it,
And
which is the Pacers.
which I think is most impressive. It's not like they're still playing Pacers basketball, but like the
Yeah,
Bucks transition defense has not been good, but they've kept them out of transition for a lot of this game, like more than the Pacers normally are. And it just like sort of doesn't matter. I think
yeah,
Siakam has been huge at both ends. The Bucks are scoring 0.86 points per possession when he guards Giannis. So as a team, that is insane, like
yeah,
insanely bad for Milwaukee. And I think he's done a lot of good things and pulled them out of ruts on the offensive end. Like his two-way workload, I would argue, has been pretty absurd. And the other note I have is like I still don't think we fully appreciate, and at least 12 NBA players don't appreciate this because they voted that. By the way, those framings are always funny, those polls, because it's 158 players participated, 90 answered the overrated question, and Tyrese Halliburton won that category with
right.
14% of the vote, which is like, all right, so 12 players think that Tyrese Halliburton's overrated. But what I will say is he's not even shooting the ball well, not
Mhm.
even inside the arc. Like, well, like 50 something percent. He was at 58% for the regular season. The possession battle of just like he has 4 turnovers against 24 assists.
I was just gonna say, averaging 12 to 2. It's like, what else do you need him to do?
Well, Grant, only 4 players have matched at least 24 assists with fewer than
Mhm.
5 turnovers through the first 2 games of a playoff series. They are Mike Conley, Drew Holiday, Steve Nash, and then Chris Paul did it multiple times because of course he did.
Yeah,
And just like I think that Halliburton's been able to like when you've put like when Brook Lopez has been switched on to him, or even just any sort of big, the Pacers are averaging what is the number here when one of the biggest guards, Halliburton, 1.36 points per possession when Hallie's defended by one of the Bucks' bigs, and I'm including Kuzma and Giannis in that with Portis and Brook Lopez. Yeah, like with Lopez, if you get all the way to the basket, you might lose that battle because of who Brook Lopez is. But like the work that Tyrese Halliburton's been doing from the in-between, spraying out to like the players around, it seems stupid to say like, yeah, like the two best players on the Pacers have really done their job. But like that's a huge part of all this. And you've gotten extra lifts from, you look at what Andrew Nembhard has been able to do. And you look at what Miles Turner has been able to do for a lot of this series. But just like the Siakam and Halliburton is just, remember there were questions about, is this duo enough to make any sort of dent in the East? And people were wondering, oh, was that the right trade for Indy to make when it came to getting Siakam? I'm not saying they're going to go to the conference finals. There's still a lot of this series left to play. This team is really, it is good. It is balanced. And most important, it's not deep, Grant. It's playoff deep.
Yeah. So to your point, a couple of things, and then I want to ask you a question about a broader angle here. So of the guys that have attempted in this series on Indiana, I think it's at least 3 threes in the series. 2 players are shooting under 50% on threes. Tyrese Halliburton and Ben Mathurin. Everybody else, go down the list. Siakam, Nembhard, Turner, Neesmith is 62.5%. Toppin 60 has gone 2 for 3. Jarris Walker's 2 for 3. Like everybody's hitting threes, and that's partly because they're running hot, but also because like Halliburton is diming these guys up. Like these are good looks they're getting, generally speaking. I don't know what the wide open and open data are, but the Pacers are getting really good shots, and that ties back to the question I want to ask you, which like the answer is always a little bit of both. But do you think Indiana looks this good because Indiana is this good, or is it because the Bucks just like they just don't have the guys to like put real pressure on Indiana's playmakers and cover you know what I mean? Like, is it Indiana or is it Milwaukee? Is it? Ooh. Because if it's Indiana, then we have to talk about them making a deeper run than maybe we thought. And if it's Milwaukee, then it's just like, well, will we just have another series where we say, well, the Pacers got through, but like we all know, like we did when they made the conference finals.
Ooh, that's tough. I do think it's more so the Pacers, but it's just like, because didn't we know that the Bucks were just never going to be, I guess maybe some people, did you pick them to win the series? I don't think you did.
I think we both picked the Pacers.
Yeah. So I think it's just more so the Pacers. They've made a lot of good adjustments, and I think that the way that they've shown in all these different ways that they could score, because it was the Bucks. Caitlin Cooper had this stat. The Bucks switched like 52% of the offensive possessions, which was their highest mark of the year in game 2. It's like, yeah, that's a game where I actually think Doc Rivers has tried some like different shit on defense. So that's a lot of switching. I didn't know it was going to be that high. But like the Pacers just figured out ways to bust through, even when it hasn't been, as easy as it was in game 1. So I think it's more so the Pacers, because I think they can beat you with a bunch of different players and in a bunch of different ways now. And I think that, honestly, the growth of Nembhard, sure, even the growth of Benedict Mathurin, but I think that's where the addition of Pascal Siakam makes a ton of difference, is that if you go back to not last season, but the season before, it was kind of just, they felt like not a 1 note, but maybe a 1.5 note offensive team, where it's if they're not playing fast, they're in transition, what are they going to do? Now they don't need to do that. Like they can pick you apart surgically, more so than they could last season even. And I know the Bucks defense has more weak points to press than the teams that they would face moving forward. At the same time, and I'm curious if you disagree, what the logic would be. Like, I think this is more Pacers than Bucks.
I think it is. And I looked up the stat to answer my own question, and this goes to what we're talking about. The Pacers have taken 1 3-point shot through the first 2 games of this series that was defined as tightly covered, which means a defender within 2 to 4 feet from 3. Every single other 3 they've taken has been either open or wide open. So like the shot quality from deep that Indy is getting is like, you can't lose a series unless you just like you're cursed or something if you're getting that high quality of 3-point looks.
Yeah, they're really good. And so we shouldn't get too far ahead of our skis here, but I am curious to see how they're going to match up like in the next series, just assuming that they're going to get there. So they're going to be facing Cleveland. Spoiler alert, we'll get to Cleveland, Miami in a second. I actually don't hate the way that they match up against Cleveland, though.
No, it's going to be before we move on. Are we going to get a punch thrown in Indiana, Milwaukee before Knicks Pistons or after?
I think after that, like there's the history, more history between this version of the Pacers and this version of the Bucks, but like Knicks Pistons has been like everyone's just mad. And
Yeah,
there's like even
everyone's
Malik
real
Beasley
mad.
like pointing after like your team's down 8, you dunked it, and then he's pointing a finger. I think that was at OG. I think
Yeah.
someone's gonna throw a punch there. Look,
Warriors
you have
Rockets is chippy too.
scorekeeping or clock keeping conspiracies already coming out of that series.
So we have 3 series because Warriors Rockets is real chippy. So we need a fourth. We need a fourth so that half the series are like at the risk of violence. I feel like that
Which
keeps it.
so of the live game violence though, like I feel like there might be more bodies hitting the floor in Pacers Bucks. I feel like every time I look it up feels like someone might be on the floor.
Man,
Or am I misremembering
I
here?
mean, Warriors Rockets game 2 was intense. Like there was so many tie-ups. Like I feel like Steph and Jalen Green got in multiple jump balls together, just like being like diving on the floor. And like, I mean, if those two are scrapping, like we've got something. We should do Cleveland, Miami next, unless you have more on the Pacers.
I do not. What are your thoughts on Cleveland, Miami?
I mean, the main thing on the Cavs side, the best offense in the league has been validated. They have the best playoff offense so far, 133 offensive rating. And that ties into like, I think Miami is actually like pretty good. Like, I know that like Hero got picked on in game 1, but defensively, especially if Davion Mitchell is going to be a bigger part of the rotation, which looks like is just going to happen, they can put Mitchell, Highsmith, Wiggins, Bam, like they have real defenders on the floor, and like different types too. Like Mitchell's pretty tough at point of attack. Like that's kind of why he's in the league. That's certainly why he was drafted where he was. Wiggins has a pedigree defensively against like really good wings. The Cavs kind of don't have those, but he can go up or down the positional spectrum. And then Bam is Bam, and the Cavs just can score. So like this is what a 1-8. This is more competitive than a 1-8 should look, I think. But it is a 1-8. And I think that's like just the sheer talent and production that Cleveland has is like, it's being validated insofar or in as much as a 1-8 series can validate something.
What's more shocking to you, that this has been more of a Sam Merrill series than a DeAndre Hunter series, or that Nikola Jovic is getting crunch time run over Andrew Wiggins for Miami? What's more surprising?
Probably the second one. Although, should we be ever surprised if Wiggins is like, oh man, he's not here tonight? Like that's priced in. Did we overthink? I again, these are small samples, and so Mitchell's big second half that like stabilizes game 2. You know, the Heat were kind of in it, and Mitchell just put it away. Did we overthink like, well, actually Mobley is the Cavs' most valuable player? And I say this because he just won Defensive Player of the Year and had a really good game too. But when Mitchell's cooking, it's kind of like, yeah, okay, Mitchell just is the guy.
Yeah, and I think even you look at like Mobley, I don't think has had like the postseason playmaking jump that I might have forecasted him for. Mitchell being more important there. Yeah. And I also just, when you look at some of the Cavs like weaknesses so far through this series, where, well, they're pretty meh on rebounding. They can maybe fall in love with matchup hunting against Tyler Hero. And it's just like Donovan Mitchell making shots is the antidote to every single concern you might have about this team.
And making shots that like are conspicuously like spectacular. Like Donovan Mitchell does a lot of cool shit where it's like, it's really obvious that he has that like lead dog, like big, I got the ball type of thing. I'm going to score. Like he just is that guy. So, and like Mobley's contributions are always going to be more subtle. So Mobley, I feel like we fall into the trap of like Mobley's like the thinking man's Cavs best player. Whereas, and like, actually it's just Mitchell. Cause like the stuff Mitchell can do, like you just can't win a bunch of playoff series unless you have that guy, So
I will say I have no regrets from the regular season, but this is it's one of those things where it's, well, you're looking at it through the lens of the regular season, but you get to the playoffs and you're right. We overthought that.
Yeah. Well, but you're right too, though. Hey, you know what? We're all right. Everybody's right. Both of us, especially. Like Mobley did have maybe arguably the more impactful regular season, but Mitchell is just like, he's the more indispensable. Like you can't do anything in the playoffs unless you think Garland can actually just do all the Mitchell stuff, which like sometimes it looks like he can.
Right.
But Mitchell, I think really still is just, the Cavs are just not anything close to what they could be if Mitchell isn't doing stuff like he did in the second half of game 2.
Are you worried at all about like, is anything they've done? I think Cleveland's fantastic. Well, I'm like now kind of second guessing where if you're looking at a prospective series against Indy I'm trying to think of like dynamic offenses, whether it's Indy or eventually Boston in the conference finals. I'm like, oh, is there like, are they going to have to, at that point, you can't really curtail the minutes of DeAndre Hunter, right? And you
Right.
might need more of Isaac Okoro.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, are they not as ready to face either of those two as I would think? And again, that might just be me overthinking it, but like Miami is not, because you know what this series has done for me is like, it's reinforced Tyler Hero's made a ton of growth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also reinforced that, my God, this team needs another top level creator. And that was true
Yeah.
before the Jimmy Butler trade.
Right. The two things can be true. Like Tyler Hero can have ascended to like another level of like scoring star stuff. And the Heat still need someone better than him on offense. Like that really, it's kind of like that's what we used to say about Brunson, right? It's like the Knicks, and that may not be true anymore, but like he's great. The Knicks still need someone as good or better than him.
It might be, you could even frame it because it would be this with Brunson. You need to get someone to where it's worth displacing Tyler Hero, Jalen Brunson from the ball more.
That's the better way to put it. Like you're not going to go real far if Hero has to do all that he's doing. Do you think Cleveland is more vulnerable to a team that has like someone that forces Mobley to guard a big than they are against like a really good guard, like that force both Mitchell and Garland to have to guard like a dangerous scorer? I'm not sure that team is out there now. Because if you like, I guess you'd say, yeah, I mean, do you see what I'm getting at? Like, because the fix for Cleveland is like, well, Mobley can just guard Jason Tatum or whatever. But if you force Mobley and Allen to have to guard bigs, is that more of a problem because it means you just have no one to guard like a combo forward or a wing other than Hunter, I guess? Or is it worse if like
Dean Wade, baby?
You dust off Dean Wade. If he can stay healthy, that's your answer. Dean Wade's always been the answer for Cleveland. Or is it like, well, Garland has to guard? Yeah, I don't even know who this team is,
well,
so maybe
honestly,
it doesn't matter.
Is this like a way to answer it? Would you be more worried about them, their defensive game plan for Tyrese Halliburton, or Boston?
Huh. Well, yeah,
Boston
I guess we
has
should
more weapons, but like, I guess you see what I'm kind of getting at here in the sense of like, who is the, like, do you feel more confident about if the Cavs have to match up opposite Jason Tatum or Tyrese Halliburton? Like, what do they have more solves for?
I feel like they probably have more. Oh, can we say they have more solves for Boston? Is that insane?
I think if you're looking at like one player, maybe, but like,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's going to be the central question. This team is not going to, I don't think the Cavs are going to run into problems scoring, right? Like it's just, eventually they'll play a team that is going to stretch what they can do defensively with two small guards and like the carousel of, small forwards which is like, all those guys are pretty good, at least good at something, between Okoro and Wade and Hunter and Strus. But like,
even like with Mitchell, like specifically if you're going to have Tyrese Halliburton do any of his off ball stuff, like Mitchell might be able to handle that type of work.
Yeah. And then it just becomes it's a Nemhard series and he just cooks Garland. Or
is it a Benedict Mathurin series?
Maybe. Yeah, I don't think there is a Benedict Mathurin series.
I don't feel worse about the Cavs like through the first couple games of the series. That wasn't necessarily what I was getting at. It was just, it made me think like, all right, the Heat have had some more like good offensive moments that I would have expected out of this series.
Right.
And is that problematic at all?
I don't think so. I think the Heat, they won 37 games. 37, is that right? They won 37 games. They're just better than that, I think. And then it's still a small enough sample where like I don't really feel like anything from this series, big shocker, has made me like, oh God, we got to get back in the lab and try to figure out how good Cleveland is. Like, I still think we got a pretty good idea.
Our next series, Oklahoma City, Memphis.
Okay. Can I get into we're going to do like a post-mortem on Memphis, even though as we record this, the series is 3-0. We don't have anything beyond like Ja Morant had that rough fall on his hip. How did
you feel about the Lou Dort? People are.
I don't think there's anything there. I think like it's. I don't know what you do like about that. I guess like what you could do is just like anytime a guy is airborne, if you touch him, it's a flagrant 2, and you're out of you're done. Because that would really make guys be extra careful, and maybe we avoid some of these things, but. Even the Butler one was like Draymond basically pushed Amen Thompson into him, or I think it was Thompson. And so it's like there's nothing malicious there. I don't think guys ever, with rare exceptions, none of which come to mind, like try to take guys' legs out when they're in the air. That just like isn't a thing. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm with you. I think also couldn't Scott that was Scottie Pippen Jr., right? Couldn't he have just taken the shot instead of whatevering to job, just throwing it out
Yeah.
there? But
Oh, so this is all Scottie Pippen's fault. I see what you're saying.
so I'm assuming I want to guess, not that you necessarily have a singular takeaway, but can I guess what yours might be about?
Sure.
I have two. I'm gonna give myself two options. It's either the defense / Alex Caruso, who is this pocket-sized behemoth, or we're going to talk about Chet Holmgren just bombing away from deep in this series.
23 second half points. He's the Thunder's best player. No, I mean, this is another one where after game one, it's just like, okay, what are we doing? This is ridiculous. And then game three, the Grizzlies are up 1,000,000 points and then lose. Probably wouldn't have lost if Morant had stayed in it. So like, even a single 50-point blowout doesn't just, mean we don't have to keep watching. For the Thunder though, like what have we haven't learned anything about the Thunder, like, unless you want to fixate on like, oh, SGA is having a hard time scoring. It's like, yeah, well, he didn't have to do anything in game one. And
so that's fair, but I actually think the increase in Chet Holmgren's like per minute 3-point volume is a big deal. And
sure.
The other thing too is maybe this is going to depend on how you feel about Memphis's defense. Like J-Dub probably I think we can officially say the primary concerns that you have about OKC's offense, I don't know if my concerns weren't as large to begin with, and they might just not be as warranted anymore. He has made Grant, and I know they've made life tough on SGA, but that kind of speaks to Memphis's defensive game plan, or
the strategy's right. You got to try to take SGA out if you have any hope of winning.
J-Dub has made more unassisted 2-point field goals than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in this series.
I mean, he's got the 2 hard dribbles pull up around the elbows. Like that's
his like patience, the cadence on ball when he gets into the lane. Mm-hmm. Like you go back to like year one, like just kind of like night and day. Like he's just become so much more dynamic from the in between. He's also shooting 70.6% on drives to the basket in this series. That's absurd. It's not everything because of what we know the Grizzlies were doing coming into the playoffs and then just some of the stuff that's happened. But it's like you said before I went off in this little tangent is, well, if teams are going to make life difficult on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, is you need the second guy who can create an advantage, whether it's for himself or for others. Mm-hmm. The Knicks don't have it consistently. The Thunder do. I think that we're there. I might be prepared to say that we're there.
I mean, the numbers were trending that way. We talked about it a lot of like, well, J-Dub by himself, not so hot, but like, well, that's the tiny fraction of the non-SGA minutes because most of the time he's got Chet or Hartenstein with him, and then it's like it's more than fine. The offense works. It's just like these. So yeah, I think it's like it was the can J-Dub be the offensive engine was always like the thing we went to because there's just nothing else to talk about with this team, really. Like it still feels that way.
Remember, it was the lack of size, and then it's just kind of like, well, now they can go dual big if they want, so who cares?
Yeah, now they can go dual big, or they could go no bigs, and their defense still kicks ass.
All
like
guards,
it doesn't matter. All guards, yeah.
Did you see the play call in game 3? It was initially, I posted it before I saw the outcome of it, but they called Alex Caruso for a foul, but it was really an illegal screen on Zach Edey. Mm-hmm. And so my first thought was, before I saw the Thunder challenged it and that it was overturned, was 1, that should have been an illegal screen on Edey. And then I was like, and then 2, and it didn't even matter that he did, like they could have just done that be a play on, and Alex Caruso still busted up the play. Right. And then that strip, or I think they called it a block, but that strip he had on Triple J in the post, like what is, I know he can't play 35 minutes a night, and some of he was injured at one point during the regular season. He's been iffy on offense, but like, holy shit. Like,
I mean, we've had years now where like, doesn't it feel like the more advanced the metric defensively, the more it shows Caruso is like God tier. Like it just, it doesn't like whatever. It's like the less, I don't know, the more niche it gets, the more it's like, oh my God, he's like a $50 million player. Like you just can't, like he's, I'm exaggerating, but like, and now you kind of see it. It's like, it's weird that like the things he does that always get him so high in defensive estimated plus minus and, LeBron and all this other stuff. It's like, you could just watch the game and see him destroy offensive possessions with like incredible strength and timing and anticipation and speed. And just like, I don't know how he's so he's unbelievable. And like we have to throttle back because like there are concerns with him. Like sometimes the shot goes cold and sometimes he
or
can't
doesn't
stay
take him.
healthy.
Yeah,
Or he won't take him. And so like that's why he's making 20 million and
instead of 50.
instead of 50. Well, and that's also why like the Bulls being, dumb and all, like, it didn't cost a mint to get him. Like
Yeah,
there are those things, but like, man, it's so absurd that he's like the 6th or 7th most important player on this team. And maybe it's higher than that, but like that just speaks to what the Thunder are capable of. So I don't have a lot else on the Thunder. It's just like they maybe should have lost game 3. I think I picked it
well,
as a sweep. Um,
yeah. So did
but
I.
like whatever. It's probably a sweep
It's
if it's
I think if I had the takeaway, I mean, I don't know, like when you kind of dig into the numbers. So Chet, 5.2 3-pointers per 36 minutes in the regular season. I know it's only been 3 games. I think he's at 9 per 36 in the series. That's a fairly big deal. But the J-Dub stuff for me, where she's like picking apart. Scottie Pippen Jr.'s actually had some good moments on, but like he's picked apart Desmond Bane.
yeah.
He's torched Memphis's bigs when they're throwing on him. I think if you need a big takeaway for the Thunder from this, that's not defense related. It's all right, like the offense just might have more safety valves than even people who are optimistic about their offense thought.
Yeah, caveat, the Grizzlies defense sucked for like the
Caveat
second
to the
half of the year.
caveat, Lou Dort, and then J-Dub themselves specifically, like they've shot a good number of threes and they're not really making them.
Yeah,
So it's like there are
true.
shots that could also go in that have not gone in.
This
yet.
could be worse, is what you're saying,
Right. It could be 5-0 through 3 games, and it's not.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not going to check your math, but I think you're right.
We'll have to check your proprietary metric subscription after this.
I did
Our
check
final series, this is our final one, right? I already lost count.
Yeah.
Celtics versus Magic. We're still waiting as we're recording this. I haven't heard anything about Jason Tatum's wrist injury other than he missed game 2, obviously. I also don't think it's pretty clear. What we were both worried about, well, what's Jaylen Brown going to look like with all this knee stuff going on? It's kind of clear after game 2 that they don't need Jason Tatum to win this series.
My takeaway was Jaylen Brown seems pretty okay to me, and that's a problem because maybe that was the way you'd poke a hole in Boston and say they're vulnerable.
Can I say one thing, though? This will
Sure.
run counter to Joe Mazzulla and what he said about Kristaps. It was fun seeing Jaylen Brown not bleed. I think that was fun.
You've always, you and your don't get guys bloodied stances.
My anti-Gore stance is just out of control.
Broken record out of you. Yeah, I don't know what else to take away for Boston here. The Orlando side of it's a lot more interesting.
I do. The one thing I'm in agreement with you. The one thing I do think the Celtics could be in trouble if like they actually ever need Kristaps Porzingis to punish mismatches against a team that won't foul him. But right. I also like the ratcheting it up from Drew Holiday in the play. Wasn't like kind of the discussion.
Oh yeah.
Oh, if they're going to make a change this offseason, like is Drew Holiday kind of playing for cementing his spot on this team? And I'm not saying they couldn't survive without him, but it's just kind of reiterates, oh no, like no, Drew Holiday is still a pretty valuable player, even if you're not happy with where the price point checks in.
Well, that's the thing you would have to point to if you're pre, oh my God, Jaylen Brown's knee. It's like, well, what's Boston's biggest weakness? It's like, well, Holiday got, I think it was the Grizzlies. Like, oh, they schemed to let him shoot 17 threes and his 3-point percentage is down. And it worked in that game because it broke the offense and he couldn't hit open shots and whatever. It's like, he's 42% for the series. Looks fine. Yeah, I think Brown looking good, Holiday making shots and looking good. Yeah, I guess the Porzingis thing, you're probably right. Like eventually someone will figure out like he won't shoot a hook shot and he turns the same way every time and he's just foul baiting. But like, it's not like the Celtics need that to work 10 times a game. Like you get 2 or 3 and you're good.
So before we then move on to that, can I ask you a question about the Celtics?
Mm-hmm.
If Jason Tatum is either hurt and he's not 100% or he's missing games, or even if he's not, who's the tougher matchup for them between Detroit and New York?
Oh, I kind of still think it's New York. And I guess I'd say that for all the same reasons, I still think the Knicks will win that series. It's just like Tatum, like if Tatum doesn't play, then I mean, like, are the Knicks favored in that series? Yeah, they have to be if it's Knicks Celtics. Don't you think? Tatum,
they are. I think
not playing a minute. You're still going to favor the Celtics?
Yeah. I think I would probably say that the Knicks are a tougher matchup for the Celtics than the Pistons. Just it's a cop out, but it's the top end talent thing. And I do think it's good. I think Detroit's defense is I would say probably way better suited to defend Boston. but you
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
generate consistent offense at some point. The Knicks are going to do that more often than Detroit would be my guess. But would you pick? So maybe they would be favored, but would you pick the Knicks to beat Boston? Just say Jason Tatum wasn't playing. We know that won't be the case, but would you pick? I wouldn't pick the Knicks to beat Boston.
Man, I'd have to think real. I
I'd
think
pick them to get their first win of the season over Boston at some point in that series, but I'm not picking them to win it.
well, if they are going to get one, it's going to come in games Tatum doesn't play. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to think harder about it, but like, I don't know. I think maybe they'd be favored. I'm
Well, I'm
ducking
saying
the question.
that's fine, but do you
Yeah.
think would you
Would
pick
I
them to
pick them?
win the series?
It would a lot would depend on how they handle the rest of the series against Detroit. Like if they just blow the doors off and everything looks like it's working well, maybe I think I might pick the Knicks, but hopefully we don't have to make that decision. Orlando, Dan, tell me why the takeaway is anything other than the Magic are exactly who we thought they were,
Yep.
for good or ill, and nothing about this series has changed a single thing that we came into it thinking.
Well, okay. I don't want to be. So I agree with you, but I am sort of wondering, like, has it changed? You know how because Paolo Banchero's like still finding ways to do things.
Uh-huh.
Do you know who's kind of not?
Everybody else?
Franz Wagner? Like, has your opinion of him? I've been up and down,
Yeah.
like the impression spectrum on Franz Wagner, but I think the ultimate takeaway is they need better spacing around them. And I'll view this through the lens of Banchero, but this is the takeaway from this series, which was the takeaway from last year's playoffs, which has been the takeaway from this team for the past few years. Banchero's teammates were in the 14th percentile of off-ball gravity this year. They were in the first percentile of overall three-point shot making. And Grant, I don't really think this is mathematically possible, but statistically, they are in the 0th percentile of catch and shoot three-point shot making.
Yeah.
So get some, just, if it doesn't happen this offseason, fire everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Just fire everybody. They need spacing. They need an advantage creator who doesn't shrink the floor. And it's just the fact that they didn't, and we liked the KCP signing when we thought that wasn't going to be the only move that they were really going to make. The fact that we're here, nothing at the trade deadline. I don't care about these. Nothing last offseason. It's really disappointing, verging on, I would say, malpractice, because your core is young, but your core is getting more expensive. So you're only going to get so many bites at the apple before this organization, I imagine, cheaps out.
So two points, one Paolo point, one Franz point, since you asked. I think it's well documented that, like, even going back to, it was sort of a bit and then it wasn't. And then maybe it was again, but still sort of not. The J-Dub is better than I'd rather have J-Dub than Paolo thing. And the argument then, whether it was a bit or not, was that like the way that Paolo becomes the best version of himself is like, there's kind of only one way. He has to be like a singular offensive driver. We're talking like top 5, top 10 offensive players in the league, maybe top 5. It's like, I kind of think that's there for him. And that only ups the urgency to get the shooters around him that you're talking about, because you're wasting it right now. Like I really do think he is a good enough passer that like he can create you enough open shots for teammates that just need to make them. And he's such a physical load. Like he's still getting to the foul line like 9 times a game in this series, even though everything is geared to stop him. He's shooting over 50% from the field, or right at 50, 46 from 3, like somehow is only averaging 2 turnovers, despite like the whole deal is don't let him kill you. So I think Paolo, like, he's got a lot of all NBAs in his future. And then the only question is, will that translate to team success? And it's a yes to me. It's a yes for me, dog. If the Magic put some shooters around him.
Everybody, Grant has conceded. Paolo Banchero is not the second coming of Kwame Brown.
It's still a ceiling floor thing. I just think, like, I'm more convinced that, oh shit, he's going to hit the ceiling.
And you've kind of like trended towards that direction over, like,
it just became more obvious. And now it's just, it's more obvious.
It's undeniable because the spacing within which he's needed to work the past 2 postseasons is absolute ass.
Well, and you ran the numbers. It's like, like factually speaking, the guys he's surrounded by are as bad as it gets in terms of like giving him space to operate or making the shots he creates for them. So it's just like, we've had all the information. Now we like really have all the information. So go ahead.
I was going to ask the only novel thing. I was making kind of a joke about Franz Wagner. He's shooting 58% on twos in the series, but 6 free throws through 2 games, and just Grant, 37% effective field goal rate on jumpers. And
Right.
it's just, I don't know that I've like, who's the last player that was really good and you still think could be really good, where it feels like their jump shot has deteriorated since they were a
So this
rookie?
is the thing. It's a real thing. Like the aesthetics of his shot are like, oh my god, that's never going in. Like I don't know if it's I haven't watched him closely enough to know if like the like like I don't know, it's like it's buffering or like it's like skipping frames or like there's a hitch is the simplest way to say it. Like he's got to have some like mechanical overhauls happen. Whatever. The thing is, like, you can still really like Franz as an overall player and say, and we did early in the season, like, oh my god, he's an all NBA guy, which was a huge departure because I thought the max for him was I don't like it. And the reason I didn't like it is because, like, I don't know, is he duplicative with Paolo? Like now you can make the case that it's like it's not just that he's duplicative, it's that like he actively is unhelpful because like because Paolo should have the ball, right? You need secondary creators, but Paolo should have the ball, and that means Franz has to make shots, right? Like,
Right.
like how are you helping if you're not able to cash in the shots your best player creates for you? Like, yeah, you can win the minutes without Paolo because Franz has the ball. That's good, but like the fit issues are more pronounced than ever because like your second best guy that you maxed out just like, I don't know, doesn't really work all that well offensively with your best player. That seems like a problem to me. Like if he fixes a shot, if he could shoot 36% from three, like we're done talking about it. But
Yeah.
like from what we're seeing now, like I don't know if that's going to happen.
I wasn't laughing because I thought your point was wrong. I was laughing because actively unhelpful is just, it's perfect. And it's also just like, yeah, my overreaction to the series was, and it was by the end of game 2, I was just like, I would call Charlotte right now and offer Franz Wagner in a package for LaMelo Ball.
I love it. You see, you're an action, you're a solutions guy. I just point out the problems.
No,
You
I think I'm
just solve
more.
it.
I don't think I'm the most emotional person when it comes to analyzing the game, but I'm way more emotional about it. Like you can detach and kind of take a more. I still get into those fits where it's like, trade this guy, and we're 2 games into a playoff series, and
Get
like
him
we have
out of
all
here.
this evidence that he's still super valuable. But
Right. Yeah. No, I think it all ties back to like I'm just more and more convinced that Paolo is so has the capacity to be so good that like you really need to just tailor stuff around him. And it shouldn't be that hard.
and it's kind of it is a similar question now that we had for the Rockets at the Open. But
Mhm.
if you believe that Powell already is that offensive guy, I mentioned LaMelo Ball is the name, but I'm not even sure if that's not the level of player they need to go get, right? It could be and Anthony Simons is a name we keep mentioning. Could it be a Kobe White? Like, does a Ty Jerome, if were able to get him in free agency, do you think it needs to be an all-star type, or could it be someone who's more of the Ty Jerome might be too extreme, like someone of the in between?
Honestly, like just forget the defense because this I think it's still
I don't need it.
his carrying skill. Yeah, and you don't need it. Like offensively, a Derek White, like someone that just
Oh,
will make open threes, can
okay.
create enough on his own, will always make the connective pass. Like I think that gets you a lot of mileage. Like now, Derek White is, I mean, I think borderline all NBA as it is, but like you don't need the like 30% usage maybe can get you 10 assists a game guy. You don't necessarily need Malik Beasley on the other end of it, like who just cashes in all these threes. Like you just need like 2 more capable pass shoot dribble players. Like
Okay.
they don't need to be stars.
I would worry about a Derek White type as the acquisition, because I wonder what does he look like outside the comfy confines of Boston's existent spacing? Like, is he going to
I mean,
create, like, how much
yeah.
space is he going to create as maybe soul force of gravity on Orlando?
Well, that's the thing. It probably can't just be one guy. I don't think. I
No,
think
I think it could be. Like,
oh,
if you put Jamal Murray on this team,
ooh, yeah, you could really accommodate a Jamal Murray too, because who cares who he's guarding? Yeah,
right?
I don't. Look, the Magic need offensive help around Paolo Banchero. Welcome to 2023's analysis.
Do you have anything else to add, or are you ready to take us out of here?
I think I'll take us out of here. Really good job by us. Under 2 hours talking about 8 different series. Let us know your thoughts on the series and miss us with this is outdated. We're recording this Friday. There's going to be 3 games tonight, and by the time you hear this, they will have happened.
I wonder
So
what series. Let's fast forward in time. What's the series that's taking place on Friday that you think your thoughts could like most dramatically change from the outcome of the game?
if the Nuggets They don't play tonight though. So of the games tonight, or of
I think
just
it's Lakers Timberwolves would be the one that I think could age the, because I'm looking at Bucks Pacers, and then not I don't I mean, I'll be shocked if anything ages poorly in Celtics Magic.
Yeah, no, Franz Wagner hits 14 threes.
Like,
Make it look pretty
the
bad.
record for like most.
I'm gonna go with that. If the Magic have like a blowout offensive game, then we'll have to reevaluate. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's just Lakers Timberwolves, because that's the one that I was kind of like, I see a lot of people who I think are smart focusing on the Gobert and Luka stuff and what the Lakers are able to do to pick them apart on defense. But then I'm sitting here like, well, I don't think that's the issue.
Yeah.
So maybe I just don't have a great feel. And I'm also pointing out like, man, what if like some of the Lakers players actually start hitting threes?
Well, we've already said like we don't really have a handle on that series yet because it's been make or miss. So we've insulated ourselves just fine, I think. Yeah, thanks everybody for listening, for watching. Remember, rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your enemies. If you're checking this out on YouTube, make sure you give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment there. Join our Discord, links for that in YouTube and podcast description. Good place that we do the live game campfires channel. That's typically been popping, Dan, in the during some of these games. You're
using the word popping.
I did, but I said typically been, so it's like just square enough to admit that I shouldn't be saying that. We should get out of here before I say anything else. Shouts Frank Ntilikina, apologies, Jared Allen.